Hey, Living North AP Psych, good morning. It is Wednesday, April 15th, and we are live. Might be actually an extra video this morning, a very quick one, because I was live and I didn't know it, setting up for this morning. So if you want to go ahead and get out your learning targets for Chapter 18, Social Psych, we'll continue on. Yesterday we did learning targets, behavior, personality. It's not just about my individual factors, but it's also about the situation, okay? Again, just a reminder that your Chapter 15 personality assignments are due by Friday. So several of you knocked all three of those out yesterday. Good job. So again, you should already have your lab done. If you haven't, just make sure you go back and watch the live streams and complete that lab. And then you have your vocab assignment, and then you have your quiz, okay, which you could do with a partner. So appreciate the emails as well that do it all three together. It doesn't have to be done that way, but that's easier. But I'll take it any way that you want to turn it in. So just make sure that you get that in. And then remember that the Chapter 18 assignment, which is really pretty much only the lab and your AP notebook, was posted yesterday as well. So hopefully if you go to Canvas, again, you got two places. You got the announcements, and then you got your assignments. So the assignments, I kind of list everything that you need to turn in. And then the announcements generally have the labs in them, and then also have your learning targets in it, okay? All right, so behind me, again, I will post this on Twitter as well every day. So I've got, again, learning target 4, 5, and 6, okay? All right, so... and then I've got kind of the brief explanation of learning target, but again, those are posted on the announcements underneath the doc that says AP learning targets for the entire class. So here are Chapter 18. Okay, there are 12 of them, which is why we'll spend about 4 days. And then there's one essential question, which we'll discuss at the end. Okay. All right. So learning target number 4 is key attitude formation and change. All right. So we're going to go back to our founding father of social psychology, which is Kurt Lewin, okay, because he is kind of the father for several reasons. The first one, to kind of clinically, if you will, in a very scientific manner, study social psychology, but then also most of the influential names that we're going to give today and moving forward have kind of their origin studying or working with Dr. Lewin, okay? So Leon Festinger, which actually should already be in your AP notebook. So we talked about him. He's the, Dr. Festinger is the one who kind of, his big claim to fame is the theory of cognitive dissonance, which we talked about in Chapter 12, which again, just to review, and I kind of have it up here, is when our beliefs do not match our actions, we are in a state of what is called dissonance, which is kind of internal conflict. And we are motivated to get out of that state of dissonance. It's uncomfortable for us. Some people view it as a drive. We can't be there. And we're in a state of cognitive dissonance when our beliefs do not match our actions. So we have to change one or the other, our beliefs or our actions. Or in social psychology, what they call is my attitude. So it's my attitude or my action, okay? So what they want in AP Learning Target number 4 is for you to understand cognitive dissonance theory and how it can change, influence, and impact our attitude formation, okay? So again, if I smoke, and I know that smoking is bad for me and that eventually could possibly kill me, I'm in a state of cognitive dissonance, right? My beliefs are not matching my attitude, my beliefs and attitudes aren't matching my actions. So I've got to change one, okay? And the easiest thing to change is my attitude or my belief, okay? Not my action. So I'm going to change my attitude about smoking or my belief about smoking, okay? Or my belief about, just life in general, and that, if I want to have one vice, something's going to kill me. If I'm going to go, I want to go happy, whatever I can do to help change my attitude about the situation to bring myself more in alignment or balance so that I'm not in a state of dissonance, okay? So, again, we've already talked about Kurt Lewin, the father of social psychology. Leon Festinger is already in your AP notebook under names, but just make sure you know and review his theory of cognitive dissonance. I think, again, and I really want to encourage you to read the book here, or at least skim it because there's so many good studies and historical, you know, scientific research, and just very, you know, and understand cognitive dissonance theory. Okay. Because I changed my attitude about it. Okay. All right. So what they want you to know is the big impact on formulating my attitude and opinions about situations is cognitive dissonance. Okay. I need to somehow bring them into alignment with my behaviors. So I can change my behaviors, which is the hardest thing to do, but people can do it. Okay, I just got a connection is unstable. I might need to just get out of some of this stuff here. Okay, all right. Okay, back. All right, so I know that I cut out there probably. So again, just know cognitive dissonance theory, okay? And basically understand that my attitude and my beliefs need to match my actions. And if they don't, that plays heavily on the changing of my attitude, okay, or my belief, all right? And that's Leon Festinger. All right, AP Learning is attitude and persuasion, okay? And once again, what they want you to know about attitude is cognitive dissonance, okay? That one of the main forces that drives my attitude formation is my cognitive dissonance, okay? That I'm going to drive my attitude formation based on pulling me into that equilibrium, if you will, in that state of equilibrium, so I don't have dissonance, okay? Persuasion. All right, this is called the Elaboration likelihood model, and this sounds all big and complex, but it's actually very simple, and all of you go, okay? So the Elaboration likelihood model actually, I think it's really good when you explain it through a decision-making process, okay? The central route to persuasion is basically the direct route, but also it's the route that deals with the most significant factor, okay, in the decision, all right? So, seniors deciding where you were going to go to college, okay, is a persuasion, okay? You have to persuade yourself, you have to persuade your family, okay, but mainly you have to persuade yourself. You're going to use the Elaboration likelihood model. The central route to persuasion is when you make your list of pros and cons, you spend dedicated time to the decision, and you really look at the key factors involved in, you know, that kind of describes or persuades the different colleges, okay? Because again, you're trying to persuade yourself to go to a specific college. So you're going to look at all the factors. You're going to take your time, okay? That's the central route to persuasion, okay? I'm going to look at the big impacts of the decision that are involved in the persuasion. I'm going to take my time, okay? The peripheral route to persuasion, again, if you remember peripheral from peripheral nervous system means outlying, okay, are when I make quick decisions based on superficial factors, okay? Now, I know there's a common theme out there that a lot of times people make their college decision based on a feeling, you know, the feeling that they have in campus, okay? Now, if that's truly what happens and that makes the decision right now, how I feel about a campus is pretty important, right? So that can be a part of central route if I then take time to, you know, say, okay, wait, that was just a fleeting feeling, might have been temporary. I still need to go to these different colleges, so on and so forth, okay? All right, so peripheral route is going to be kind of the superficial outlying factors that are involved in persuasion, a very quick decision. It's kind of like your heuristic. When I make a decision very quickly, or I need to be persuaded, or I need to persuade somebody really quickly, I'm going to go with the superficial things, okay? If I have time, I'm going to hit you with the core things, okay? And then you need to take time and deliberate about it, okay? So, you know, if you go by, a salesman gets you, you'll see both, right? Okay, so if a salesman is trying to sell you a car, a phone, or anything big, you're going to see the peripheral route very quickly. So they're going to try to make you to make a quick decision, right? So by giving you some of the superficial stuff, okay, the wants, if you will. And then if you sound like, you know, that's not going to persuade me, they're going to go to central route, okay? Then they're going to start asking you, well, what are important factors for you to make this decision? For you, what do you time involved route focuses on the key factors, the important concepts in the decision or the persuasion. And this is peripheral route. This is the quicker route, deals with the outlying, superficial, surrounding factors, okay? Okay, and seniors, and some of you, right? Okay, and then again, attitude on this one is cognitive dissonance. Okay, it's kind of what they want you to see as the main formative attitude formation theory. All right, stay out of cognitive dissonance, bring my attitudes and my actions into alignment. All right, and then this is persuasion, central route to persuasion, peripheral route to persuasion. Okay, this is where we're really going to start. Excellent question yesterday, but here's where we're really going to start to get to look. So there are 3 figures here that they want you to know. All of them were involved in your scavenger hunt over spring break. All of them I have videos under the assignment link in Canvas. Okay, Solomon Asch, all right, who did a world famous study on conformity. He did the famous line study, which we would have done on the class. I would have actually had plants, and then I would have thrown up this diagram right here. So you have 3 lines, and then you have an example line. Your job is to simply tell, well, maybe not, but if you have it, then you're going to see that it is line 1 is what I was going for here. Okay, in the book and then in the video, you'll see that it's what Asch did then is he had people go into a room and they sat around this table, and there were 6 people already in the room, and you sat in the 5th place. Now the other 6 people are plants. Okay, another line other than line 1. So they all picked 2. So you think in your mind, well, the answer is easy. It's line 1. And then person 1 says it's line 2. And then person 2 agrees. Person 3 also agrees, and so on and so forth, to where the first 4 people agree that it's line 2. So it gets to you, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what am I, right? You're going to start to doubt yourself. And what he found is in generally about people will change and conform with the group. Even if they know that the answer is wrong, they'll still conform, and they'll feel better about it. If they don't conform and they get the right answer, they don't feel good about it. Okay, so it's a massive study in social psychology. Increase the likelihood that we will conform, and factors that decrease the likelihood that we will conform. And those are listed in the book, and you need to know those. So to respect the group, the group has to have more than 3 members. Okay, so there are factors that increase our conformity. Most of you have heard about this study. This is the famous shock experiment. Again, it's in your book. I've got a video posted on the assignments about it. Okay, and this was just an amazing study that rocked the United States, rocked the world, and the results were not very flattering, which is why there's a lot of controversy, and there were some ethical violations in it. Again, this is a study that's in the top 5 of research studies ever done. It would be considered unethical today because of the emotional stress it put on the subjects, but saying nonetheless. So Milgram created this fake shock generator, which its pictures in the video. And actually it had little levers that you pushed all the way up to 450 volts. Underneath the voltage, it actually labeled how intense the shock was. 450 volts, it said XXX, and it said deadly before that, and so on and so forth, okay? So what happens is you walk into this room agreeing, and you were paid for this study, and there's just another person studying in the area. A researcher comes out and says, okay, we're going to do our experiment today. Thank you for volunteering. One of you needs to be the teacher. One of you needs to be the learner. Okay, and they hand out a hat, and it looks like that you randomly draw which one you're going to get. So it looks like there's random assignment, okay? When actuality, the other person is a plant, okay? And they are always the learner. The real subject always draws the teacher, okay? You take the learner back into this room, and you hook them up to this fake shock generator, okay? So what they do is they actually give the subject an actual shock so they can see that it works, and then they strap the plant into this fake machine. Okay, so they basically turn it off. So it only works for the practice. Then what they do is they take you back into the teacher room, okay, in which you set in front of this shock generator. Now you're told that the experiment is done on memory and learning, and your job is to read a list of words, and then the learner has to then commit it to memory and learn it, okay? Now, for each one they get right, you move to the next question. But if they miss one, then you hit the shock button, and it makes a little noise, it buzzes, it lights up, but it really does nothing. It's not connected to the person, the learner behind the room, okay? So as soon as you leave the room with the learner being strapped in, they unstrap themselves and they walk out. They're actually not in there at all. There's actually a recording that plays. So what happens is they wanted to see how far just random people would actually shock somebody after already seeing them, meeting them, understanding the importance of the study. Now, the obedience part comes in as the one that the person's screaming in pain. You know, they just read a script simply. They wore a lab coat and they just simply, this experiment requires that you continue. Please continue, teacher. Da 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 da. Okay. And so again, the missed answers were also part of the experiment. So every subject would eventually get up to 450 if they wanted to. Okay. So the skit would play, they would miss it, they'd hit it. And then once they got up to about 2/3 of the way through the shock generator, the subject would go silent. Okay, which they're trying to insinuate that the person in the other room has collapsed, they passed out from the intense shocks. And the goal was to see how many people would actually go all the way to 450 volts, just somebody told them to, just because they had an authoritarian figure behind them or in the room with them. And what they found is that 66%, the first time Milgram did his study in America, 66% of people went all the way to 450 volts just because somebody told them. Now, that doesn't mean they liked it. And it didn't create stress. And if you watch some of the archival footage, which I also have, first video, The Power of the Situation, you'll see the subjects and they develop tics, they develop stress-related behaviors. You can tell they're under an immense amount of stress because they are in a massive state of cognitive dissonance, correct? Right? All right. Their attitudes and beliefs are not matching their actions. Okay. So they have to make a choice. Do they change their attitude about it or do they change their behavior? Right? And they just keep going. And they shock somebody perceivably to death. Okay. Now, you know, you come in and you debrief them, and there's actually new versions of that. There's one that was done in 2011, I think, in the UK, which actually shows the study. And most of the time, it's not allowed to be replicated in the same way because of the ethical violations, the stress that it put on the subjects. Okay. But Milgram showed basically that, you know what, we all could become Nazis if you want, because if somebody has an authoritative role, they wear the uniform, they're kind of elite, they have some desired qualities, you know, I'm going to obey. I might not like it, but I'm going to obey. Okay. And then also in the book, they list factors that increase the obedience. Okay. All right. Something like, you know, they have to belong to a prestigious institution, which was Yale. You know, so on and so forth. Okay. And then Philip Zerto, who is actually the host of 2 of the videos, he did the compliance. He did the famous Stanford prison experiment, which was on compliance, roles, how roles impact us, how wearing a uniform would impact us, and foot in the door. Okay. So again, if I really want to persuade somebody, I can do it 2 ways. I can just lay it on you, right? So like if you have to go and persuade your parents, you know, you got to ask them for permission to do something really big. You can either go small steps, right? Hey, how was your day? Start up a conversation, you know, do some chores, you know, things like that, and then have your big ask. Or you can just go straight to them and do the big ask, right? Most people will do the foot in the door. Basically arrested the students on Stanford. They randomly were selected. And then basically they were arrested on campus as part of the study. They were brought in. They were randomly assigned as guards and prisoners. The prisoners were arrested on campus, brought in, and what they did is they made the bottom psychology department a prison. And what they did is the prisoners stayed there for 24 hours. They had to wear a robe. They had a number. You know, they had a bed. They actually were looking at, you know, I'm going to make them wear the outfit. Will they conform to the role? Then the guards also worked 8-hour shifts. They checked in. They had sunglasses, a uniform, okay, and a stick. Again, dress the part. Will you conform to the part? Now, not immediately, but over time, and actually very quickly, though, what happened is that a study that was planned for 2 weeks had to be stopped because people were conforming to the rules so much. The guards were becoming, again, nobody was physically hurt, but the guards were becoming increasingly aggressive and hostile. And then the prisoners were becoming very passive. And some of them became catatonic. They exhibited massive stress responses. They were not doing well. And so the prisoners were actually becoming harmed. And that's why the gap became so wide. And actually Zimbardo himself reports that he kind of lost his role as a professor and became kind of like a prison warden. And so the idea there is that we will comply. And again, the prisoners could have left at any time. They could have gotten up and leave. Again, that's part of our good research, right? You have to be able to end it at any time, walk away. But they didn't. They stayed in their roles, okay? And even the guards who may not have liked what they were doing stayed in their positions, did the jobs, okay? So fascinating experiment. So again, on the very first video, which is the power of the situation, and actually you can see real live archival footage of them, black and white footage, which is also very, very fascinating. I think it's like 40 minutes and you can jump around, but it's just a really good summary of the entire chapter. Zimbardo does a good job, and he even talks about his own study in a little bit of a biased manner. But it also talks about Lewin's first study over leadership styles and so on and so forth. So you can see all those there. And then also I've got subsequently videos on each specific one. So these are all, this one has been made into several movies. This one has been made into several movies. So I picked the most recent one, which is in like 2010, 2011. This one has been a part of movies. It hasn't been made in and of itself into a movie. I've got those on there as well. You can look at that. And then also, again, the book is full of fascinating stuff and pictures. And it's just unique study after unique study after unique study. And it just kind of delves into how we explain these types of world events, these historical events, as we try to attribute. Remember, social attribution theory is we're trying to explain why and explain people's behaviors and their actions fully. It's not complete if we just look at individual factors. We have to look at the power of the situation. And when we look there, we get answers. Okay? In all of these experiments, people did things that they did not want to do, nor did they possibly think they would do. But because of the situation, cognitive dissonance, okay, in that specific situation with these factors involved, they did. They acted in ways that they probably didn't want to or believe. I guarantee you, everybody who went up, which was a lot of people, remember in the UK video, it does a great job. You see this one guy and he hits the button and he's done and he's done it. He just immediately folds his hands in his head and he starts to cry. And so what they do is immediately the person comes in who was with them at the beginning, who they showed, who was the learner, who they showed being strapped up. Immediately they come in and said, "I'm fine. It wasn't real. You didn't shock me." And the relief on this guy's face was just amazing. But you could still see he was still really stuck in cognitive dissonance as they were debriefing him. He still could not believe what he had just done. And it didn't match with his attitude or his belief. But he did it. Okay? All right? So what social science does a good job of, what they've done is they've identified the factors that increase conformity, all of which you could find in the Holocaust and World War II in Germany. The factors that increase psychological campaign. It was huge psychological warfare, psyops, if you will. Study this again. This field hadn't even existed, born yet. Its infancy, if it was, and then same thing with Zimbardo in the 1970s. Here, compliance, roles, and just the understanding. If I give you and I give you medals, I decorate you. I'm proud of you, and you rise up the rank. You'd be surprised how much you will conform to the role just when you put on that uniform. So it's just accurate. This explains that. Okay, this massively explains that. So, and there have been more recent studies, The Wave, which was a book and a movie. And there's just a lot of fascinating research here that proves, if the situation is correct and if it's in the right factors, if you have the right factors that create the means. Formula: behavior is the function of the individual and the social situation. Okay. All right. Any questions? And again, I've been persuasive in the central route for you to watch the videos and also read the book, because you need to do that, especially as we're doing learning. But you won't regret. It's just some fascinating stuff that you'll read, and it doesn't read like a chapter anyway, because it's just like you're reading summaries of studies and you're just going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened," so on and so forth. Okay. All right. Any questions? Sorry about the breakup in the middle there, and I will erase that first video that was me actually going live before I was ready. Right. Anything else? Are we good? Any questions? Riley, what's up? So lying would be peripheral. Lying actually could be both. You can do lying. So if you're using lying as part of your persuasion, you can use it central. So you can lie about the core figures, the important factors, or I can lie about the simple outlying stuff. I think it now easier to lie about this stuff because there'd be quick lies and it's based on a quick decision. But, there's lots of people that even lie to themselves, in the central route. So it can be either one. It just depends how you do it. And unfortunately, lying can be a huge part of persuasion, and this model actually talks about it. Okay, so good question. Any other questions? I love the questions. And the main reason is when you guys ask questions, they're always so good. They're such good questions. And a lot of times there's stuff that I missed. So, okay. Awkward silence. Okay. All right. If you guys need anything, contact me. Let me know. Again, don't forget, turn in your Chapter 15 assignments by Friday. And then check out Chapter 18 assignments, which have been now loaded to Canvas. So again, go to that assignment link, and you'll find them. Have a good day.